you.
Todd Madison, and Todd will be speaking on the entire consent agenda.
Don't worry, not actually. I just didn't.
For 3 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. So, so as always, great job on the minutes. I'm speaking about the minutes right now. So I've seen we've documented the rule change regarding speaking on this item in the minutes, the general consent section. We'll do pretty much anything to keep from having to listen to parents, won't we? Can we name that the Madison rule number 3? Rule number 1 is only 1 comment card per off-agenda comment. Rule number 2 is parents don't get to do presentations like the unions do. Only the unions get to do that. So this makes it number 3. And I know you're going to be disappointed, but since only the chosen few non-parents are allowed to present, I really tried to once again to come up with something to say on every agenda item on this board meeting, but I just couldn't do it today. So maybe next time. Next item, L, school bus maintenance. I see we're going to approve some money for bus maintenance. That's great to see we're maintaining the fleet. Appreciate that. I wish we were spending more on fleet maintenance to provide kids with more widespread busing. We'll talk a little bit more about that on the agenda item that's relating to later on in the agenda, and also the interim budget. Item U, so classified and certificated personnel orders. I just thought I'd let you know your voluntary turnover has decreased. You're now at 5.21% annualized, which is almost less than a quarter of private industry average, so you're doing a great job. People are not leaving. HR is still kicking rear on hiring 87 new teachers, 104 support staff year to date. Way to go, Todd and his crew. Retirements are still low, 12 teachers, 15 classified year to date. Seems like a fairly low number. Overall, hiring is far exceeding departures.
Of 2 board members at this out-of-state conference. So I would like to propose that maybe Eleanor would go to this and maybe Stacy. And I would love it if you could represent the kids and the parents' interests, and you can talk about parental rights and accountability, and maybe make some changes in the books and the materials and the trash that is brought into the schools. We need to get back to education. So it would be amazing if Eleanor and Stacy, if you guys could use your positions to actually help and support families rather than hurt our kids. Last month, you guys all approved to give yourselves a raise as board members. And Dr. Vitelli, you
Ma'am, this is still about the conference that we're talking about at this time.
This is relevant to the community. This is relevant
for coast-to-coast conference only at this time, please.
You're taking up my minutes, and I don't appreciate that very much.
We're staying on context, please.
So it's clear and obvious that we need a board that has the community's back. There's a lot of parents here from Reynolds that are very upset that their school is being closed.
Rose, this is still about the coast-to-coast conference.
This is exactly the issues that we want brought up. We want local accountability. We want a board that listens to the parents.
This is in regards only to coast-to-coast conference at this time.
Yes. So
Only
on
to
a
that item.
national level for policies, we would love for you guys to focus on the kids and on their grades. That's all we're saying. We want you to teach the kids, leave politics out, and stop giving yourselves raises. Actually earn the money that you guys work for. Thank you.
Rose? Rose, I think you want to speak on W, right?
All right, for action item 4W, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the contract for Master of Social Work Fieldwork Education Experience placements with California State University San Marcos, California State University Long Beach. So basically, you're going to have student teachers come in and do social work on our kids, which again, we want the teaching, we want the education. We don't want kids counseled, and we don't want free eyeglasses and food and clothing. We want you guys to prepare them for adulthood, to go to college, get a job, be contributing members of society. You're using our tax dollars for crazy things. Why are we going to allow students that are studying to be social workers to practice on our kids? Where is the parental consent and where is the notification? This is like a freight train out of control.
Zach Olson, item BB. Zach Olson.
Good evening, Chair, board members. So I'm speaking on the approval of the club charter, specifically for the Dungeons and Dragons Club. So imagine with me, if you will. You are a wizard hired to escort a caravan of diplomats on an important mission of peace. Suddenly, the lead wagon erupts in flames. You hear guards scream as goblin archers rain arrows down on your party. You whirl just in time to see a wild orc rush towards you waving a bloody club. Thankfully, you have magic and enough mana to spare. You raise your staff to freeze the orc in a cone of ice, but then you remember, I'm a Christian. I'm not supposed to use magic. What am I doing? Deuteronomy 18, let no one be found among you who sacrifices their son or daughter in the fire, who practices divination or sorcery, interprets omens, engages in witchcraft, or casts spells, or who is a medium or spiritist, or who consults the dead. Anyone who does these things is detestable to the Lord. Excuse me. Remember that our overall primary purpose is to glorify God. The Bible is the final authority on right and wrong. And if God declares in the Bible that prostitution, rape, stealing, mutilation, murder, human sacrifice, worshiping other gods, casting spells, using magic, and practicing necromancy are wrong, then should one pretend those things or excuse me, I'm kind of nervous. Should one pretend those things or become involved in a fantasy game in which one participates by imaginative role-playing? No. And that is what I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Dr. Norman. Public comment, please.
Todd Madison.
All right, thank you. So there is nothing that calls out for having the district provide busing for kids more than closing a school. There's nothing. But the district was very clear in its repetition last night. No transportation would be provided for the former Reynolds kids. This plan reflects the lack of concern over providing kids with transportation to and from school, something the rest of the country just considers normal. In most of the country, kids get bused. That's normal. The background on this opens up with transportation costs for public school districts have long exceeded the amount provided by the state. This is the traditional setup. We can't provide you with good services because we don't get enough money from the state. We hear it all the time. This completely ignores the long history of protesting for local control of funding. I'm generally a supporter of local control, but this is exactly what's wrong with it. It depends on human beings to make altruistic decisions in spending, and that's not how human beings work. Nowhere is that clearer than in this district's own spending decisions. As I'm sure most of you are aware, in 2012, OUSD was funded at a rate of $8,810 per ADA. In 2022, that number is $17,994, according to the SACS database. That's over doubled during that time for a compound annual growth rate of 7.4% per year. Who out there can say their own income has gone up at over 7% a year for the last decade? Almost no one. Particularly unlikely if their job performance is getting worse, as it is at OUSD. So during that same time, according to the official state numbers, inflation has run at 2.97% per year. That means OUSD revenue has increased at a rate 2.5 times faster than inflation. But yet that isn't enough money, is it? Why not? Where has all that money gone? Reynolds parents should pay attention to this one. Fortunately, we have data on that from OUSD's own payroll records. The money has gone to paying benefits for adults, not services for kids. OUSD used that incredible growth in revenue to give itself correspondingly incredible growth in compensation, with median total compensation of an administrative employee in 2021, $166,789, and for certificated employees, mostly teachers, $127,142 from OUSD's own pay records. Anyone who wants to browse that, just go to transparentcalifornia.com and you can look up anything. It's all there. Both numbers do not reflect the bonus raises given out in October 2021. With that, admin compensation is likely over 170, teachers over 130. But no busing for our kids. Just in case anyone wants to know why this transportation plan doesn't include provisions for buses for our kids in general, or the kids of Reynolds specifically, who are now going to walk 2 miles to and 2 miles from school every single day. Now we know where the money is going. We can see what you value in your budget. As Joe Biden says, show me your budget and I'll tell you what you value. We can see it. Thank you very much.
Okay.
On to Building Fund Independent Audit Report.
Thank you. Oh, we have a public comment.
Patty Kay.
Good evening. As Todd said, this district runs on our payment of taxes, so we do need more information to kind of understand, and we request a little bit more. In other words, where are the reports, other than just a rubber stamp from NIGRO and NIGRO, on the acceptance of Proposition H Building Fund, W Building Fund, Independent Audit Report, and Interim Financial Report? There's no attachments, so I would appreciate it, whoever makes up the agenda, if you could make the attachments handy. Okay. So in order to understand Proposition W, which is the one I came up here for, we need a little background on the H. And at that time, in 2008, we had over 20,000 students in Oceanside. Okay. And on the measure for Proposition H, it itemized each school that your monies would be going towards, each school individually, okay? However, you're still spending that money, and a lot of those schools are closed. So where does the money go? NIGRO and NIGRO says everything is being spent properly, but we don't have anything to judge that, and in front of you, I don't think you do either, so how can you vote on it? In 2020, when the bond was voted in, we had 17,223 students, a drop. And now, presently, in 2022, there are only 16,261 students. Did you ever ask yourself, where did they go? Because I think they fled, moved out of state, or went to private schools, which is considerable in your funding. We are down 3,739, and we've closed 5 schools, Dr. Vitale, since you've come here, and sold. And you also have another one that's just closed and soon will be up for sale because that's what you do. Vista was down 6,700 students since 2012 and has not closed any schools. So I don't quite understand the logic of closing all these schools and still having the bond money. Is that going toward the admin building that people didn't know that they were voting for? Okay. So please, how do they audit something if they don't know what the money's going for? In fact, in the 2020 bond that you wrote the ballot measure on, Doctor, it was a very vague categories. There were no schools itemized specifically. So then those funds, I think, can be shifted over probably to the admin
Patty.
building. Thank you.
Thank you. Regarding 6E, do I hear?
Haven't received any love from SDG&E. I can certainly reach out and see if those types of programs are available, but right now we're planning on increases.
Okay.
We have
Public comment?
2 public comments, Todd Madison and Beth Barnum.
All right, me again. So be still, my heart. It's a budget issue. So I'd probably have charts and graphs here, but we know parents aren't allowed to do charts and graphs and presentations, unlike, of course, union members. I've got to say these documents are simply amazing, more so in every report. The amount of money flooding into the district is tremendous. $79 million in other state revenue this year, $51 million the next year, $37 million the year after that. That's amazing. All I can say is, my God, wow. Apparently, though, we don't have enough money yet from the state to improve education, because we haven't seen that happening, or provide extra programs and services for our kids, do we? Now, why could that be? What could we be doing with the money instead? We all know that. I've got it, putting it into adult bank accounts, which is, of course, the same thing the district has been doing the entire decade I've been watching this process over and over again. Our district is like a Marine on leave. They collect a big check. The first thing they do is go out and have a wild night on the town, maybe buy a motorcycle. Of course, Marines on leave are not paid $341,000 a year to manage public funds in ways that benefit our kids, not themselves. It's kind of a big difference there. So even with such huge cash flowing in, our district is still managing to overspend revenue by $1.7 million next year and a whopping $27 million the year after that. That is crazy. That is just crazy. Maybe the analogy is not just a Marine on leave, but a drunk Marine on leave. In all of that, where are the things that benefit our kids? Are we using that money to provide better programs and services for them? Are we using it to decrease class sizes, to make our teachers' jobs easier and give more personal attention? Are we using it to give classroom teachers discretionary funds to pay for stuff out of instead of paying it out of their own pocket? Are we revising the certificated salary schedule to provide a significant bump in starting salaries because we know starting teachers are underpaid? Are we improving facility maintenance? We're doing none of that. Where's the money going? As I just outlined, are we using the money to provide transportation to schools for kids over a mile away or Reynolds kids in specific? No, we're not doing that either. None of the above, because we use that money for the most important thing there is. Parents may think that means improving the education of their kids, but our district and board know better. The most important thing by far is improving the bank accounts of adults. Imagine instead of giving yourself bonus raises a few months ago that will cost $13 million over the course of this period, we put those things into the things I mentioned above to benefit the entire district's kids. Imagine that. Imagine how much love that would generate from parents. Maybe that would reverse the decline in enrollment. Maybe they'd stop taking kids out of the schools. But no, we can't do that because that would be spending money on things that benefit our kids, not benefit adults. And we can't do that in Oceanside Unified, can we? Thank you.
Good evening, Superintendent Vitale and board members. So this is only my second board meeting for Oceanside. That's the beauty of what has been happening is you've awakened some parents and we've started to pay attention. So on 6G, I have looked at other school districts. the financial report wasn't on a drop-down menu. So I couldn't look at the numbers before coming here tonight. Is it possible to put that on the agenda next time? And then I'm aware of ESSER 1 and ESSER 2, which is your COVID money, which you would not have gotten if we weren't shut down. So I am wondering if you can add that to the agenda next time as well and tell us how much money you have received in the last 3 years. Thank you.
Public comment.
We have 6 public comments on this one. Nicole Watson, Luis Yoredell, and Brad Tobias, and then I'll call up the next 3.
My name is Nicole Watson from TPUSA Faith of At the Cross Oceanside. Women's History Month in March. This topic talks about highlighting women for a month. I am a woman. The Lord assigned my gender at birth. This cannot be changed. This proclamation is intending to be inclusive to include those who identify as a woman, but why is this necessary? The approval of resolution number 26 is indeed not inclusive. It doesn't include the millions of women of all colors who will never get to celebrate this month because they were slaughtered. OUSD's Women's History Month is contradictory and not inclusive at all. It's a slap in the face to the real women who have languished and toiled their whole lives. It is not inclusive. It is deep-rooted with an agenda to give appropriation to the homosexual community and groom, prep, and prime our children. The world is getting darker and darker, and the schools do nothing but comply, taking part in the darkness. OUSD, I applaud you. I am a resident of Oceanside, born and raised. I attended all Oceanside schools. I am here to stay. Now, I don't remember anything like this from my school days. OUSD's Women's History Month in March with inclusivity to men. We didn't celebrate men at Libby Elementary for Women's History. Hello to all my past school teachers and staff. OUSD, you're teaching our children to trust the wrong people, all the while supporting the darkness. Our children love and trust you. This inclusivity isn't for the right reasons. Lord, I pray you cover our children and adults, give them courage to speak out in Jesus' name. Again, I say OUSD Women's History Month in March with inclusivity to men. We didn't celebrate men at Libby, Mrs. Begin. These things are taught, inflicted, and repeated, causing perverse questioning. You personally add into the 5-0 vote every time to approve the things which take away innocence. Not once have you spoken up. Your bright smile used to reflect love and kindness. I ask you and the other teachers in the room and watching, what changed from then to now? Why is it okay for homosexuality and grooming in multiple available formats to be pushed now, and why not back then? Were you always okay with this? When is enough enough? I pray you all have the courage to answer that in Jesus' name. This will not have a profound and positive impact on our community, nor on our children, which is noted in your proclamation resolution number 26 form. I see nothing but spiritual darkness, and I am addressing that darkness in Jesus' name. You will not win through OUSD. He already won. You tremble and seethe at the name of Jesus, and your host doesn't even know why. OUSD's National Women's History Month in March. Children are a gift and a blessing. I hope we can all agree on that. Well, our blessings are being taught not only in March, but every month to question themselves as the predators swoop in on their prey, our children, to take advantage of their weaknesses during times of inclusivity. Does National Women's History Month in March address the realities women go through? What will be taught during this month? What books are you going to be highlighting during this month? Get this garbage out of our schools and our city and focus on what schools should be focusing on instead of honing in on homosexuals and predatory groomers parading as safe people and educators who think they know what's best for our children. Women's History Month for women, more like men. No, thank you. It's illogical. Be clear in Jesus' name. For teachers and everyone else here, stand up, speak out, and be clear. And be the light in Jesus' name. Jesus is bigger than all of this. Answer to him.
Women's History Month. Wow. Who can't get behind this, right? I mean, strong women in history who have been successful in the business world and the political worlds. Women who have been overcomers. Women pastors who have been bringing faith to the forefront, especially when Jesus is so lacking in our current society. Of course, I wasn't even surprised when I read the agenda item. There must not be any biologists or scientists in the school board right now, because I'm here to testify to you that any man that identifies as a woman just isn't a woman. Oh, it's true. It's true. You see, I'm not just a gym owner. I also have a Juris Doctorate and a master's degree in biomechanics. So maybe you can make some adjustments and update the agenda. A woman is someone who was born with XX chromosomes. God created man and woman, not cis women, not trans women, not identifying as woman. God simply created women. Transgenderism doesn't exist. It's a fake word. And I refuse to live by lies. I refuse to accept your wordplay as truth. And to honor them as women is to honor a lie of men masquerading as women, stealing the valor and achievements of real women. Also, I need to mention your distinction of women of color, as if you seem to want to separate them from women who are not of color. Women of color? I guess in the 60s they said colored women, and now the catchy phrase of distinction is women of color. It wasn't terribly long ago that black women were referred to as colored women. They had colored drinking fountains, they had colored restrooms, and quite arguably is one of the worst things I can possibly imagine anyone ever having to deal with. But I guess the progressive left has resorted to their past ways and have come and coined a new way to designate, segregate, and separate black women from the mix of society. But hey, it's Women's History Month, it's 2023, right? And it's accepted for the left to not only be pedophile groomers, to force sexuality and lies about gender on our kids, to have the worst literacy scores in any institution in this nation. Why not tack on racism and misogyny too? You're welcome.
All right, good evening, and thank you, board. I don't know how I want to follow that one up, but I'll try. All right, so first off, women are awesome, and they deserve to be recognized for things that they do. Yeah, like my wife, she's awesome. She's a Marine. She's badass. She's a nurse. She's awesome. Like I am her biggest fan. All right, women are awesome. You know, and in some cases they are stronger than us men. Case in point, pregnancy. I cannot even imagine having to go through pregnancy. The amount of pain that a woman goes through, holy cow, that's insane. But and also they do so much for our society. However, my recommendation is like Lou's. Let's strike out the LGBTQ identifying part of this, the women of color on this, and just have all women. Just have all women. Is being a woman enough? Like, you were made a woman. A woman, yeah. So, like, isn't that enough? You know, just because someone claims to be a woman doesn't mean they are. Just like Lou said, chromosomes. All right? You know, it's kind of like if I identified as superintendent, does that give me your spot, Dr. Vitelli? I mean, it's essentially, I mean, if I put on a dress, would that make what I said any more different, any louder? Probably not. All in all, there are only two genders. God created men and women. And in closing, I would like to share a clip from the educational classic, Kindergarten Cop.
Okay, you can go.
Boys have a penis, vagina.
It doesn't get any simpler than that. Thank you for the time.
Emily Wichman, Shane Kitchen, and Beth Barnum again. Shane Crotchen.
Thank you for this proclamation, but why does this district continue to create controversy? I mean, I didn't even know about all these other speakers. I said, why can't this district be a reflection of our community and of our parents? Why do you have to have this? Why do you have to do this to this community? Why can't the superintendent stick with her diversity, equity, and inclusion plan? After the fifth whereas, again, I've got the same issue, women of color, that is racist. What happened to diversity? Women of all colors need to be celebrated, so it would be equitable and it would be inclusive. We have a wonderful community of all colors. Why not use the Ed Code verbiage. They use race, ethnicity, gender, religion, cultures, etc., etc. That's what they use. Why can't you use the same thing? On the 10th whereas, you include your union leadership in your woke verbiage of self-identity. What business of yours is it what they are? We are all individuals, and we have the autonomy to be who we want to be. We are individuals, and everyone
as a man that comes from a woman, an immigrant woman, I wanted to give a little back history about this. International Women's Day is celebrated on March 8th, established as a holiday in 1911. The Equal Rights Amendment was passed by Senate March 22nd, 1972. Equal Rights Amendment was to provide equal opportunities for sex and prohibit discrimination on base of sex. February 28th, just a few days ago, maybe you guys should check this, but a hearing came up in Washington, D.C. District Court, struck down a case which would have compelled the U.S. to publish and clarify the Equal Rights Amendment as part of the U.S. Constitution. There's a reason for that. I've read the Bible front to back to front. I mean, everything from inside, outside. I went through Bible studies, year-long studies, everything. There's numerous mentions of Adam and Eve, never a mention of Adam and Eve, who used to be Steve, or any other variation of that. The fact that women are being held down and being invaded by this generation of individuals that are sick is just not okay. It is discouraging. My daughter, as young as 9 years old, has been involved with a young boy invading a girl's locker room and becoming a school board member, saying that it was okay with that because it's right to do it. I've recently had to pull my daughter out of school, and now she attends a private religious school that does not peddle these lies upon our young, valuable minds and their parents, but yet encourages them to be a male or female. This needs to stop. Let women and girls be proud. Let women and girls be praised and honored for what they are. If we do not stand for what's right and stand for the truth, the lies will win and take over. With Women's History Month on the vote, please make sure that it's for natural-born women, as it should be, not some made-up words or people that are unsure of their identity. They read a book and suddenly they don't know. Keep natural-born girls and women safe in all vulnerable situations.
Not go over everything I wrote down because I think a lot has already been said. But what I found really interesting, so I grew up in Oceanside. I still live in Oceanside. My dad retired from Camp Pendleton. Oceanside is a seriously social, economic, diverse community, very, very diverse. And so that led me down a different path because I had a few issues with the way the verbiage was written with this proclamation because I found it very offensive. And Dr. Jordy Sparks, I decided to look you up. And on your Harvard Graduate School of Education page, there's a little blurb, which I found super interesting. It said, at Jordy Sparks High School in Springfield, Ohio, there were 2 counselors for all graduating seniors. One worked with those heading to college, and the other with those heading to the workforce. As with all seniors, the counselors alone determined placement, and Sparks was not college-bound. I asked to be transferred, says Sparks, hoping to be one of the first in his family to go to college, but was denied. I was told people who came from my side of the town don't interact with the college counselor. So here's where I'm going with this. I applaud you for overcoming that hurdle. And the reason why I bring it up is because you're the director for the development of DEI, and that is supposed to be diversity, inclusiveness, and equity. But part of that proclamation is none of that. What you guys are fighting for, the verbiage you use, is creating exactly what you're fighting against. It's racist. I don't feel included. I did not go to college. None of these programs were around. My parents had a military salary. My mom did not work. They didn't know how to get me to college. I went to Maricosta and Palomar, and I'm thankful for that. So I think you left out a lot of these Caucasian kids who don't have the ability, Caucasian girls. So, and I appreciate the presentation that was done earlier by the two women that had amazing administration and teachers up here that they were recognizing. But your proclamation doesn't say that. Thank you.
We have a comment.
Everyone?
Brad Tobias.
Good evening. So, with this bill going forward, its wording mentioned in terms of office. It mentions the oath. Now, let's look what the oath is. The oath is the ultimate promise. The oath is the pinnacle of your term of office. I recommend that the oath is recited before every meeting to affirm the public, us, that you are committed to us, that you are committed to stand with us, and that there be no more 5-0 votes. Be our voice. I know the oath is important to you. You all fought for it. You all campaigned for it. You all earned the right to say that oath. And I know that because I did it. I've done it numerous times. The first time I swore to defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, was in July 2004. It literally gave me goosebumps. Thinking about it right now is giving me goosebumps. Your oath is the end-all, be-all of what you do. It's your commitment to us. Your oath is binding. It's actually legal binding, if you didn't know that too. All right, so in that, I recommend that your oath, that you all stand up there and recite your oath before every meeting as a way to show us, the public, that you stand with us and not against us. Thank you.
A motion to approve 7.
The first three speakers will be Joseph McConnell, Michelle Mendoza, and Olivia Tuarde.
Hello, I'm Joseph McCono, and I'm a junior attending El Camino High School. The Diary of Anne Frank, specifically the graphic novel version, was an homage to the original Diary of Anne Frank, but only this time it includes visual aids to what Anne Frank talked about in her diary. I believe that it shouldn't be banned from our bookshelves as it hasn't done anything wrong. As for the premise of why the book should be banned, I believe that the book mentioning sexual activity isn't impactful to the reader. Not only was it mentioned in a page or two, but it's also supposed to be a graphic novel adaptation of Anne Frank's diary. When Anne Frank was writing her diary, she had been going through puberty. Despite her going through the Holocaust, she was just a child going through change, to which I'm sure everyone has gone through already in their lives. Even with her talking about sexual activity, it would be normal for her to mention it in her diary, as she had no one to talk to while she was in hiding. And it'd be normal for teens to read these types of experiences. But suppose that the book was banned because of sexual activity. Wouldn't it be also fair that the book Night from Elie Wiesel be banned for its vivid description of death? Or even Prisoner B3087 by Alan Gratz because of the gruesome ways that people died in concentration camps? That, I'd say, wouldn't be fair. All the books I have mentioned, including the graphic novel of Anne Frank's diary, cover an important aspect of world history of the events of World War II and the Holocaust. Removing these books would be just the same as removing them from our curriculum. preventing students from learning from it. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph.
I'm here to talk about All American Boys board. The book All American Boys by Jason Reynolds and Brendan Keeley is more than anti-police, inflammatory racial commentary, violence, profanity, and drug use. It's a story that considers multiple perspectives on racism in America. In fact, from reading the book, it's very clearly not anti-police, but a humanizing criticism of their role in American society. When books like All American Boys portray our policemen hurting American citizens and being quick to wrongly profile innocent people as criminals, it's easy to think that the book is being used to say that all policemen are violent and out to get us. But it's not about the policemen as individuals that All American Boys is trying to criticize, but the police force. The book includes police as characters that could be your neighbor. We see them flipping burger patties at the neighborhood cookout and eating at local pizza shops. And it gives those policemen close relationships with its main characters, Rashad and Quinn, that show just how human they are. Rashad's dad used to be a police officer, and Quinn looked up to Paul Gulazzo, the same policeman who beat up an innocent boy for allegedly stealing, because that's how he perceived the situation. To Quinn, Paul was a mentor. When Quinn's father died, he recounts that it was Paul who took him down to the neighborhood park to practice basketball. It'd be counterintuitive for All American Boys to express anti-police sentiment by humanizing our police. But if at some point you pick up All American Boys and find that there's nothing to agree with, there's still something to take away from its overarching message to change. Kids in school who take this book off the shelf of their library can read about how students their age are organizing protests, fighting for change in their community. It teaches them how to have courage and build their own voices. Kids are our future, and All American Boys does an amazing job at showing them just how they can build a better one. We can't ban a book that moves us forward like All American Boys.
Thank you, Michelle.
Hello, I'm Olivia Alvarez Duarte. I'm a student at ECHS. We as a generation read to understand and bring change to the world. Isn't it we the people, our job to deal with discomfort and take on new perspectives, especially ones we will never probably face ourselves? Students in Oceanside should be allowed to make the decision of what literature they choose to read. As a pale individual, it's a privilege to be able to crack open a book and decide if I want to even read the contents. To make the choice to pick it up is a privilege. Oceanside School District is exploiting a privilege. One of the books Oceanside parents and the school district is trying to get rid of is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. So what is this book about? It's about a 16-year-old girl, a young black girl, who has to balance two worlds she lives in, the white world and the black world. But something very real breaks both perspectives. The one that says worlds are separated, the world that society won't break away from, and what reality really is. So what happens? Sorry for spoilers, but a childhood friend of a young Star Carter is shot down by a police officer simply because the teenager is in the wrong place at the wrong time. For those who read the book or have even seen the news, it is so easy to blame, especially when the blame is pointed at a young minority. So what more can be said? Star Carter lives. Star Carter must survive knowing what the world is. Star Carter goes on about being 16 differently than, let's say, a young white girl. The world is racist in this fictional tale and the very world we live in today. But that's too soon, that's too simplified. What else can be said about this whirlwind of a novel? Stereotypes of who is deserving of violence. When this book is argued, the fault isn't the police officers at all. The police officer shot and killed a kid for picking up a hairbrush. People rush to the white man's aid. He is scared. He has a family. A young girl is made to watch. Except it isn't only found in books. It isn't found in tall tales. It's in the news. It's in our history books. What is the difference between the two?
Thank you, Olivia.
Next three speakers, Eden LeClaire, Thomas Carrillo, and Kate Jania.
Good evening, board members, President Alvarez, Superintendent Vitale, and everyone here this evening. My name is Eden LeClaire, and I'm a junior at El Camino High School. After hearing the claims at the last board meeting about the potential of banning books, I'm here to personally defend one of these books, Ghost Boys. I took it upon myself to read it, and I think we shouldn't be asking the question of why it should be in our schools, but why it is being asked to be removed. For those of you who don't know this book, it is about a young black boy named Jerome who was shot by a police officer, and he comes back as a ghost and watched the events of after his death unfold. This is sadly a reality that many black families have to go through. This book brings awareness to these events and gives a different perspective from the people actually experiencing these events than just the news. This book is not about making police officers or white people look bad, as some may claim. This is about raising awareness of these events that do happen and aiding in making sure they don't happen again. This book ends with the daughter of the police officer who shot Jerome starting a website to raise awareness for these events. And in the end, the police officer ends up helping his daughter with this website. I understand that the topics of this book are sensitive, but that doesn't mean we should get rid of it just for our own comfort. Books about somebody else's life experiences help us to understand and have empathy for other people. This book taught me about the true effects these events have on families and helped me have a better understanding of the impact it will truly have. On the topic of banning books, I think we should address this as a whole because this is a phenomenon that is happening across America. Why are all different types of books in libraries? I believe it has a lot to do with representation. Everyone has different interests and different life experiences. And this book, different types of books give outlets for people to learn about different experiences. Representation can also help with self-identity. Representation of people like yourself is also just as important, especially in minority groups. All of this leads back to the point that Ghost Boys or any other book should not be banned from our school district.
Thank you, Eden.
Hello. Books have been a part of our society for the longest time and have served as records, education, or a story to which we spend hours of our day reading. Our society would not be the same without books. Anne Frank's book, despite the small amount of text that may be seen as undesirable, is essential because of the historical impact this book has on our society. At a time of war and many deaths, Anne Frank wrote this book, and it serves as a first-hand account of the events of the Holocaust. This detailed diary helps us understand what it is like to live during one of the worst events in history. It describes what it was like to live hiding, fearing for your life, which is an experience you can really only get from this book. At a time where books were burned for their knowledge inside, this book served as a permanent memory of these events. It is important that we save this proof so such events are never repeated. Alongside the historical importance, we must also focus on how we view books instead of removing the access to valuable information in books. With the internet that gives anyone the ability to gain so much information in such a small amount of time, we should move forward to accept the fact that our children are learning things earlier than ever before. How will our future students be able to learn about this unfortunate story of a young girl trying to survive during an event which meant certain death for many? How will people remember such an event without such a strong example of it, which Anne Frank's book provides? As time passes, the value of this book only increases. The number of people still alive who have seen the events of World War II firsthand is dwindling. In a time like this, books like this will be some of the only ways we can receive this information anymore. As Anne Frank puts it, paper is more patient than man. It would be truly devastating to lose this book, which Anne Frank tried hard to save. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas.
Hello, I'm currently a student at El Camino High School, and I have read Anne Frank's diary, the graphic adaptation by Ari Folman. In case you are not aware, the problem is a page near the end of the graphic novel where Anne Frank wrote in high detail about the female body parts. I think that we should keep this book in the Oceanside Unified School District libraries, but the section where Anne Frank describes the female genitalia should be censored to accommodate the individuals who feel uncomfortable or touchy about the subject of sexual activity. When I read the book, I felt uncomfortable during that passage, and although I felt uncomfortable, how I feel does not mean that everyone else will feel that way when they're reading the book. This was an amazing book to read for a couple of reasons. One, it was easy to read since it was a graphic novel and it saved me lots of time. And two, it really illustrates and brings awareness to World War II and how Jewish people were affected. It It may bring more realization to the reader than the chapter books can, because sometimes we don't need a description. Even just seeing a drawing can highlight how bad the war affected people. But the Diary of Anne Frank is supposed to bring awareness of how the Jewish people were affected and how the families would try their best to survive. There is absolutely no reason to have that page in the book. Furthermore, the father of Anne Frank examined her diary prior to publicizing it. He took out all sexual parts and anything that referenced her sexuality because he didn't want it to take away from the fact that his daughter died due to the Nazi Party. An easy way to censor the book is to have a warning label on the book that makes the reader aware of some of the topics the book will contain. I believe The Diary of Anne Frank, the graphic novel, should not be banned, and it should have censorship.
Thank you, Kate. Rhonda Hood, Tiana Wilson, and Emily Tovar.
Hi, my name is Rondé Hood, and I'm a student at El Camino High. So the book of the Diary of Anne Frank is about a young girl, also known as the Diary of Anne Frank. It's about the writings from the diary kept by Anne Frank while she was hiding for 2 years with her family during the Nazi occupation of the Netherlands. The Oceanside district shouldn't remove this book because this book is about a girl's journey and learning things about herself while growing up hiding from the Nazis. This is a diary of something that happened in real life, and some parents are trying to take that away because of sexual activity. Instead of removing the diary from schools, we should teach girls not to be ashamed of their bodies, especially considering the events of this teen girl's control. I'm a student. I should be allowed to learn about the world around me. Taking a book away doesn't take away feelings or real-world issues. Books are meant to further our learning despite some of the points that are made within the book. The Diary of Anne Frank is what students need. Censorship pollutes our ability to learn. It corrupts students' chances at almost raw information from someone in our age group. To keep the point clear, the world is messy and bold. Books strengthen the minds of those who choose to engage in that growth. Nothing will go away. We will either learn or we choose to be ignorant of what's really happening.
Thank you. Good evening, President Alvarez, Superintendent Vitale, and all the members of the board. My name is Tiana Wilson, and I am a junior attending El Camino High School, a school with a pleasant amount of diversity. I've come to defend Angie Thomas's The Hate You Give. It almost saddens me to think that this book could one day leave our shelves. The Hate You Give follows Star Carter, a 16-year-old, coping with the loss of her childhood best friend, Khalil Harris, who was fatally shot in front of her after they were pulled over by a police officer. I believe it would be damaging to remove the book because of its rawness or vulgarity. This book proves that not everything is to be perceived in black and white and teaches us the ultimate consequences of our actions, that violence only breeds more violence. This book reminds us to lead with love and rid our minds of prejudice. For instance, the title of the book riffs off of the rapper Tupac's Thug Life, which translates to "The hate you give little infants F's everybody," meaning that exposing children to immense violence and hatred only strengthens the never-ending cycle. Thomas even concludes her book with the acknowledgement section stating, "To every kid in Georgetown and in all the gardens of the world, your voices matter, your dreams matter, your lives matter. Be roses that grow in the concrete." Thomas felt a surge of emotions after hearing of the heart-wrenching death of Oscar Grant in 2009, inspiring her to put her thoughts on paper, leading to the creation of The Hate You Give. Should a book that exhibits the true narratives and possibilities in life be closed off from our reach? I understand the concern that the book should be left out of our elementary school libraries, and I wouldn't disagree. Seeing as the minds of elementary school children are filled with imagination, reading this novel may create a sense of guilt and confusion, leaving room for misinterpretation. But middle schoolers and high schoolers are changing and developing into young adults that should be prepared for the real world. When it comes to education, children should be guided, not shielded. Just as Star did, just as I am doing now, we need to learn to use the voices that we're given. History is destined to repeat itself unless we can use the mistakes we've made to redirect our paths. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Emily Tovar, a junior who attends El Camino High School. I'm here to stand up against a potential book ban and defend one of the books, All Boys Aren't Blue. All Boys Aren't Blue is a memoir written by George M. Johnson, who writes about their life growing up as a queer African American. They touch on subjects as sexual racism, anti-blackness, along with diving into topics of gender identity. And in the book, they use harsh language in order to illustrate and emphasize the reality of growing up as an African American, but also as a queer person. Although these topics may seem heavy to be available to teenagers, the reality is the author went through these experiences in their adolescence. One of the main reasons that they wrote this book was to have a discussion for teens who already encountered such experiences, or to those who will be encountering these experiences. By banning this book, you are silencing the discussion regarding these topics, which harm students as they no longer have a source that encourages them to talk about subjects that are considered taboo. They no longer have a conversation with someone who has had firsthand experience with this topic. They no longer are able to learn from someone who's already gone through these types of incidents or periods of questioning. Johnson is a figure who represents the identity of many students found within our district. They are someone who can really capture the struggles students face in a period of time when they're learning who they are. As I mentioned before, this book contains graphic language and describes the scenes of sexual assault and sexual activity. I understand why some parents may be uncomfortable with their child reading this type of material. However, instead of banning this book, there are alternate ways to stop students from borrowing it from the library. Our district already has a system where parents can fill out forms that prevents their students from checking out certain books from the library. With this system, not only are parents able to have control over what their children can check out, but students are able to educate themselves still with these topics using resources from their school library. Why would this ban be necessary if there's already a solution that allows both sides to have what they want? That's why this book, All Boys Aren't Blue, should remain on the library shelf. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily.
Erica Carranza, Allison Mendoza, and Sue LeClaire.
I'm Erica Carranza. I'm a junior from El Camino High who's here and
speak into
Can
the
you
mic,
speak into the
please.
mic, please?
Oh, my bad.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Erica Carranza. I'm a junior from El Camino High that's come here in the defense of the graphic memoir Fun Home. It's a story of tragedy and, more importantly, an autobiography of the author's childhood. We follow Allison Bechtel as she recounts her experiences with her family, specifically her father. Along the journey, there are topics such as suicide, sexual activity, and other sensitive topics. It's obvious that some parents are concerned about these topics, and perhaps they deem it unnecessary to have them exposed to students, especially in school libraries. However, while these concerns are valid, it's essential for students to understand the importance of the story, its theme, and how it connects to the modern world issues. Suicide is real, sexual activity is real, Allison's story as a whole is real, so on and so forth. At some point, students will be exposed to this content. I'm not suggesting that children view such content early on, but rather that when they're mature enough, they should be allowed to explore these type of themes on their own. Fun Home does an amazing job of depicting complicated family life, as well as the process of grief and exploring sexuality. Students who read through this memoir may connect with some of the topics and feel some sort of representation. When students grow up in a society where their experiences and feelings are different from those surrounding them, they'll feel outcasted and may wonder if there's something wrong with them. Therefore, having books such as Fun Home are vital for students to check out from the library. It allows students to explore and reflect upon themselves and find comfort in a sense, knowing that their experience is similar to someone else's. Times have changed, so it's likely difficult for the older generation to understand, but I hope they'll gain a new perspective and realize they're doing more harm than good from removing books such as Fun Home
Thank
from
you.
shelves.
Eureka.
Good evening. I'm a junior at Camino High School. I'm here to support the removal of the book Genderqueer because of the questionable and disturbing themes that it represents. This is pornography and the illustration of explicit sexual activity that corrupts and harasses the minds of the young. I know Genderqueer is a memoir of the journey the author went through to find their true self, which is not wrong, but the problem is all the sexual illustrations that are not just sexual, but highly explicit, Mia Covey, who focused on a personal challenge and a social issue, should have known that their story would reach not just young adults, but children as young as 11 years old. Even so, the author should have made considerations that many young adults are not allowed or ready to learn about explicit sex ed. Parents have lost the power to control what their children read because children can still get easy access to such books by taking a quick glance at it in their school library. Therefore, Genderqueer is not a book that should be available in school libraries. As I read this book, it made me very uncomfortable. It made me realize that if this book is petrifying to me, it's 100 times worse for younger children and students. The members of our school district have the power to control what children learn. So why can't they do the same and control what our children read to protect them from these books that look harmless but are actually attracting middle schoolers and high schoolers to glorify gender ideologies? Overall, authors, regardless of their gender, who wish to keep making connections between their books and the youth community, could do so by keeping up to date where their books are going to and reject money when necessary. I'm aware that not all students are immature and easily influenced, but those who are in danger of consuming these ideas and making immature decisions are irreversible. The main focus of school should be education and education only. School should not be involved in what a student's sexuality is or what they identify as. If students have enough pressure with schoolwork, please don't enforce ideas that are making them even more confused. Thank you.
Good evening. As a parent of a student in the district, I just want to thank all of the students who spoke tonight and stood up for something they believe in. Whether we agreed with them or not, we should be proud that they are taking their time and speaking up. I fully support having books in our libraries that represent the diversity of our student body. Our students should be able to see themselves in the stories available, no matter their race, gender identity, or life experience. I believe the more our students read about people different from them, the more compassion they will show their neighbor and make our world a better place. Thank you again to these amazing students.
Thank you, Sue.
Luis Yardell, Laurel Hill, Julia Andrade.
Do you want to know how I know this school board are hypocrites with regard to our kids? And even more so hypocrites when it comes to the gay community? The books you use for gender equality contain numerous books sexualizing the gay community. It's a hot garbage parade of books on 6-year-olds giving blowjobs, the glamorization of sexual encounters at a young age, and even telling kids how to get on gay dating apps. Is that the low standard you give the gay community and the standard you want for our kids? What about books highlighting heroes in the gay community, like Billie Jean King, who is a lesbian who won 39 Grand Slam titles, or Sally Ride, the first woman astronaut, or Florence Nightingale? You claim love is love, but you're using the gay community as a shield for your own accepted narcissistic grooming. Love is not love. God is love. And Christian love has no fellowship with evil. Christian love is God. I will not stand by and allow the blind and ignorant to lead my daughter and tell me what's best for her. I am a father. I am a husband. I am a member of Awakened Church. I am not afraid of you or your condemnation of my faith, and I am not hiding. I speak in God's authority, and I know only His truth. That makes me no ordinary man. When I speak that the wokeness on this board will be replaced with the righteous, God will make earth as it is in heaven. For He has no greater joy than to hear that His children walk in truth. And here's the kicker. God's truth is the only truth.
Hi. So I'm Laurel Hill, and I'm here speaking on behalf of myself, Angela Cruz, Devona Bartasufix, Kathy Seward, Alma Gomez, Jennifer Rivette, Georgia Blanco, Bethany Jose, Trish Asuko, Lisa Sherman, Michelle Zavodny, Ashley Supak, and Karina Chavez. I'm an LMT, and I recently wrote you an email and a response, so I'm here to read it to you. I'm reaching out with my concerns regarding the Library Media Tech's current job description and compensation. Currently, our Library Tech description that was last revised in 2000. As would be expected, our duties have greatly expanded and become much more complex. Since 2018, our LMTs have been working to get an updated job description approved so we can move forward with an appeal for a much-deserved step increase. I know there is no guarantee that we will be compensated for the work we are and have been doing since the implementation of one-to-one technology on all campuses. Our days have become increasingly more involved with the media tech portion of our duties than the library duties, yet we are the lowest paid library media science position and 14 steps below the lowest paid IT position. Our LMT team works hard. Many of us have families and second jobs. We are only looking for the respect and compensation we deserve for the work we are doing. In recent years, we have lost 3 LMTs to other districts, the community colleges, and other jobs. We are set to lose 2 more this year due to retirements and more than 1 that are contemplating leaving because of the heavy workload. What support can the school board offer us? Do you have any suggestions about how we can get the process moving so we can approach the board for approval? We all come with different backgrounds and experience, but none of us chose this position because we had no passion. We all have a passion for reading, literacy, and students. Our goal is to encourage and support their growth and learning. Please show us that you, board members, also support our students and those that serve them. Thank you.
Thank you, Laurel.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here to represent our administrative secretaries. My name is Julia Andrade, and we're here just to say that our job description was last updated almost 26 years ago in October of '97. A plan was made in September of 2021 to review our job descriptions within 6 years. The classified team felt that the 6-year plan was unacceptable. The district heard and revised the timeline to 4 years, and that was much better. But the plan specified that all clerical, fiscal, and secretarial job descriptions were to be finalized by the end of the 21-22 school year. We're now approaching the end of the 22-23 school year, and we have not heard that any updates or considerations have been made so far. So to give you a visual of what the dramatic changes we've all made since the 1900s, think about what your cell phone was like in 1997. If you had actually upgraded your pager by then, like that pager or that cell phone in the 90s, the administrative secretary's job has also changed dramatically in the last 26 years. As you're aware, we maintain confidential files and information for which we do not receive a stipend. We compute and record timesheets in digital schools. We create extra work agreements and school business agreements. We train and provide work direction for the office staff. We maintain our school budget. We also ensure that all classes are covered by a teacher each day. We are the tech support for our subs that come in every single day. We cover the front office when there's an unfilled absence and when the front office staff is called away to support testing or to translate. We cover health techs' lunches. We repair anything that's broken in the workroom. We're the copier repair person. We train volunteers.
Thank you.
Margarita Luna, Todd Madison, and Brad Tobias.
Good evening, Dr. Vitale, board members, and everybody here tonight. My name is Margarita Luna, and I am School Community Advisor at Lower Elementary. I'm also a mother of 2 OUSD students. I am here today representing and talking on behalf of all of our school community advisors. We are here today to ask for our job description to be reviewed. Our job description has not been reviewed and updated since 2002, which is 21 years, if you all think about it. We are currently asking to be respected and to be treated with fairness and get our job descriptions updated. We do more than what our job description states. We are covering for other employees in our school sites, BOAs, health techs, noon duties. We also do interpreting and translating for IEPs, which we were never trained for, and we are not certified to be doing this. So we should be getting paid like the professionals that we are. We do what we do because we have love and passion for all of our sites and our students. So with all due respect to our sites, we are not here to complain. We are here to ask for fairness and get an update on our job description. Since we are all professionals, we should be treated as professionals as well. I could go on and tell you guys what else we do, but I would be here talking more than 2 minutes, and I want to make it fair to everybody else that has been waiting. But we also waited for over 2 hours and a half just to ask for you guys to review our job description, which I don't think is fair at all. So please take that in consideration and get an updated review for our job description. Thank you.
All right, so here we are at the back of the agenda again, 2.5 hours into it. But today I wanted to talk about a topic that seems to be coming out of a number of mouths here, hate. When it comes to books, we seem to have two teams lately. We have Team Kids, concerned about inappropriate materials in the school libraries, that urges the district to make better choices in its selection process. Team District appears to think the district can do no wrong. I've heard various members of Team Kids say over and over again they have nothing against people who choose different lifestyles. They have nothing but tolerance for people who want to be what they are. They just don't want that to somehow give the district a pass to put obscene materials in the school libraries. Is that unreasonable? Team District, on the other hand, appears to advocate no limits whatsoever to what can go in the school libraries. Anyone who objects to anything for any reason is not acknowledged for simply having a different opinion and wanting different selection criteria, but accused of advocating hate and banning books. As if making observations about the nature of passages in books is hate and curating differently is a ban. Neither is actually true in the English language. Now, I'm an average heterosexual guy. If I objected to having Playboy in the school library, it wouldn't be because I hate beautiful women. That's not the case. It'd be because I just don't feel it's appropriate for kids. That's not hate. And that's not a ban. At the last meeting, Charles Finn went so far as to equate urging our district to make more age-appropriate selections in its libraries with Nazi genocide. And of course, book banning. Calling someone a Nazi seems pretty hate-ish, if you ask me. Emily Wichman made a great suggestion at the last meeting. Let's post excerpts of the books that are concerning people online and take a vote. A real vote, limited to 1 entry per person, verified parents of OUSD kids only. Are we afraid of that outcome? I'm not. I'm more afraid of the continued outpouring of hate I see from Team District for those who simply want to have some control over what their kids see in their libraries. Thank you.
Good evening, board. Good evening, board. So, first of all, thank you for this time. I want to cover 3 points real quick because I have 2 minutes now. First off, books. Every book in that library should reflect FCC standards. It's very telling that if I have signage right here that says something out of the book and it's pointed at that camera, well, then KOTC switches to that camera. Simply put, the pictures on posters, the words said cannot be shown and get blurred out. If it can't be shown on public TV, it shouldn't be in our public libraries. All right. I also point 2. I also recommend that flying the Christian flag at OUSD's district headquarters on April 7th, which is Good Friday for Christians. There are plenty of Christian families, Christian students, and Christian staff, and I know that at least one of you at the table is a Christian, and Christians deserve that equal representation just as everyone else does. And just in case, you're like, oh, that's against the law. Well, the Supreme Court has said via Shurtleff v. Boston that religious flags can be displayed in public places and is keeping within the First Amendment. Point number 3, I want to inform the Board of Education to know and let you know that Dr. Vitale is part of a group where she is a director at large and is working with State Assembly to take away your power under AB 1078. This in short, this group is aligning with certain politicians in order to give her sole power of
Thank
of
you.
the curriculum.
Tanya Hicks, Patty Kay, and Rose Higuera.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Tanya Hicks. I'm a parent of 2 kids in the Oceanside Unified School District. I'm also a parent volunteer in the classroom in field trips, and I'm also involved in the PTO. Being involved in the PTO, I've had a chance of setting up the readathon and tearing it down and being in the library for a full week for many hours. Not one time did I see an inappropriate book. And even if I did, it wouldn't be forced on anybody to open or read or buy. I would also like everyone to try to focus on the students' accomplishments that have been seen here tonight, that the students themselves have spoken about, the job applications they're doing, the sports they're doing, the college visits, real life things and positive things. I'm also proud to be a part of Oceanside, where we can feel safe and celebrate all things. Kindness is very important, which a lot of the people here are not showing. Oceanside's an awesome community with so much diversity and culture, and inclusion is one of the best things to celebrate and learn about all these people, all the different cultures. All the staff and everyone involved in the school district is not paid enough, in my opinion. I see improvements in our school. I see less out of pocket for teachers. I see new playgrounds in the works. I see new desks, new computers. They have to deal with you guys. It's definitely, I appreciate the counseling in our schools. I appreciate the free food and the care for our children. Please don't forget about the children that only get to eat at school. They don't have food at home.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Parents and community members, I want you to know about AB 1078. It's a bill introduced by newly elected Assemblyman Corey Jackson out of Riverside, which is where Dr. Vitale is from, that would strip local school boards of their authority over the curriculum taught in their school district. AB 1078 would require school boards to receive approval from the State Board of Education before removing any instructional materials or books from classrooms and school libraries or ceasing to teach any curriculum. So essentially, it would take all of the power out of the school board and the community's hands and put it into the bureaucrats' hands. And Dr. Vitale is on that board as a member at large. So that is something that she's trying to push through so that she can have even more power and no accountability to parents and community members. So we would love to have her resign, as well as the school board. Oceanside is on the school board watch list, Oceanside Unified School District. As you've heard many times, they've taken tons of millions of dollars away from our children, and they put it into their own bank accounts that are overinflated, even though our scores are in the tank. Grades are in the 30s and 40s in math and science, 50s in English and reading. I wrote a letter to Lovey over here about removing explicit material that was inappropriate, and she wrote back that I needed to write specifically a page number and why. There are so many pages that are inappropriate, like this board here. It's got pornography, a woman on woman. This is disgusting. It's got profanity, bitch, book the school board has approved for our minor children. There's a warning on there that says content warning, inappropriate for minors. It's actually illegal. What you're doing is illegal. You're sexualizing and robbing the innocence of our children. You need to resign. We're calling for your resignation. The sooner, the better. Resign.
Thank you, Rose.
Resign.
the board, in case you're not aware. In 2008, when H bond was voted on, you had over 20,000 students, and amazing 15 district schools were recognized as California Distinguished Schools. That was in 2008. Two were National Blue Ribbon School winners. At that time, Oceanside High and El Camino were included in the top list of top high schools in the nation, published by Newsweek. Fast forward to now, and I see no mention of any academic awards like this in 2008 on your website. So, since 2008 to 2023, we have decreased our number of pupils. Question is why? We have decreased and closed and sold our number of schools. We have decreased our test scores to probably the lowest since they tracked since 2017. Eleanor, we're not done yet. And and your legacy, board, will be a decreased pupil enrollment, decreased number of schools that you've sold off, decreased academic achievement. What are your accomplishments? Increase in salaries, and increase in activists that have been shown tonight. These children need to be children, and they need to know that there are life experiences that aren't always sexualized, as proven by the books. Okay. Also, you have on your board website, it requests questions, ideas, suggestions from the community. We have requested many times meetings.
Thank you.
Patrick Higuera. Michael Richardson. Emily Wichman. Patrick.
So I'm going to answer your question there, Jordy. Last month when you said, I hide behind the Bible, no, the Bible is the foundation of my life. It talks about you in here, so let me read it to you, okay? 2 Peter 2, 1 through 22 says this, false teachers and their destruction, but there will also false prophets among the people, just as there will be false teachers among you, all of you. They will secretly introduce destructive heresies, even denying the sovereign Lord who bought them. Many will follow their depraved conduct and will bring the way of truth into disrepute. In their greed of power and money, these teachers will exploit you with fabricated stories. Their condemnation has long been hanging over them. For if God did not spare angels when they sinned, but sent them to hell, putting them in the chains of darkness to be held in judgment, if he condemned the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah by burning them to ashes and made them an example of what is going to happen to the ungodly, if this is so, then the Lord knows how to hold the unrighteous for punishment on the day of judgment. This is especially true of those who follow the corrupt desires of the flesh and despise authority. Bold and arrogant, these people blaspheme in matters they do not understand. They are like unreasoning animals, creatures of instinct, born only to be caught and destroyed, and like animals, they too will perish. They will be paid back with the harm for the harm they have done. They are blots and blemishes. With eyes full of adultery, they never stop sinning. They seduce those who can't defend themselves, which would be the kids. They are experts in greed of money. Boy, that's pretty graphic about you guys, isn't it? These people are springs without water and mist driven by a storm. Blackest darkness is reserved for them. It would have been better for them not to have known the way of righteousness than to have known it and then to turn their backs on the sacred command that was passed on to them. Of them, the proverbs are true. A dog returns to its vomit. That's all of you. That's what I believe.
Goodness. For the past couple, Patrick, okay. For the past couple of months, we've been reading books that contain sexual activity, graphic sexual activity, pornographic, graphic pornography, and hate. The district LGBT, depicting them in explicit sexual activity, graphic pornography, and hate. All of the 10 plus books, and one of them was not Diary of Anne Frank, unfortunately. They are about content. They're not about who or what gender. Dr. Sparks and Dr. Vitale jumped on it, and oh my goodness, here we were last month for several hours. Our filter is sexual activity, graphic pornography, and hate. We are astonished to see the books in your school libraries, especially the ones with the LGBT youth. Why would Dr. Sparks buy these books? Why would Dr. Vitale recommend them? Is this the way to portray our LGBT youth? Are these the books that's a safe place for them? This is something that our minor children should be looking at as far as explicit sexual activity, graphic pornography, and hate? Is this the way you want them to be received by their peers? What are your reasons for bringing these kind of books to any students in our school district? Why don't we let parents tell the kids, don't read these books? As parents, we know that doesn't work. As the months go by, I have seen that your disregard for children, that the things that you're supposed to be doing and paid handsomely is to protect them emotionally and physically.
Thank you.
And to educate them.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you.
Michael Richardson. Michael Richardson.
Sorry, thank you.
Before I start talking, there's a book in the Oceanside High School library entitled Flamer. I was going to read you quite a bit of that book, but since you've reduced the number of hours, fortunately you won't have to hear much. But I should warn people that have sensitive ears or children to close your ears. This is from the book Flamer, page 14. Hey, Navarro, suck any good... I'm just picking a few. And what if someone thinks my penis is small? I mean, it's not microscopic, but that's the age-old shrinkage dilemma. Even worse, I mean, it just goes on and on. Father Daniel says I should consider the priesthood, but I don't think I'm holy enough to be a priest. I wonder if priests jerk off. Mahaha, it's true. My dick gets so hard thinking about her sometimes that I think it's going to rip my jeans. When I graduated from Oceanside High School, I would have had no idea what they were talking about. We had no sex classes. I never heard of homosexuals, but now they're teaching it in our schools. Can't we all agree that this is inappropriate for children? Has nothing to do with hate, has nothing to do with LGBTQ, etc. haters, has only to do with what's appropriate for children. We're not book burners. We just want to keep these books away from kids. Jordy Sparks, you sent out alarms to your so-called allied community before the February meeting. And, quote, there's an organized effort comprised of mostly outside Oceanside folks to disrupt spaces that are safe, affirming.
Thank you.
These are all lies. We're all
you,
locals.
Mr.
We are
you.
not outsiders. You.
Beth Barnum, Richard Newton, and Sandra Martinez.
Good evening again. AB 659 is the Cancer Prevention Act. It will require all incoming 8th graders to have the HPV vax in order to attend public and private school. The HPV vax in studies has not shown to prevent or cure cancer. If this bill were to pass, I would pull my daughter from public school. I have researched this. I vaccinate my children, but the risks versus the benefits don't weigh out. In 2011, Governor Brown passed a law allowing California children ages 12 and up to receive the HPV vax without parental consent. If AB 659 were to pass, kids would literally get the HPV vax, which I saw with SB 276 passed in 2019, without their parents' knowledge, specifically for the purpose of following school mandates, despite a parent's opposition to the vaccine. If this bill were to pass, California would be the first state to have an HPV vaccine mandate without allowing exemptions. We have already seen declining enrollment in Oceanside Unified. If this bill passes, I can see more families leaving. I am asking you as a school board to make families aware of this bill and to contact, currently it's in the Health Committee for Assembly. You can contact Jim Wood or Marie Walden, she's right in Escondido, and ask them to kill this bill. I foresee seriously declinement. There are already bills in place for vaccines. Those are communicable. I'm sorry, backwards. You cannot catch HPV by being around someone. This is a sexually transmitted disease. Off topic, Dr. Jordy Sparks, you were speaking to the teens that were speaking outside and that spoke, which they were wonderful, but you told them that the board would not be banning any books, and I'm wondering about that.
Can I get a reset on the clock, please? I've only got 2 minutes. At the January meeting, inappropriate content in library books was brought to the attention of the board. Certain verbatim quotes were made, and those were censored in the public record that is YouTube. I don't think you have a stenographer here, so YouTube is the public record, and those offensive terms were silenced out. They were censored, giving a false impression of what was being said. It created a perception that there was hate and that sort of thing, whereas what it was just basically censoring inappropriate, age-inappropriate content from students is what we wanted. There is an obvious irony when you consider these materials that you defend as appropriate for young students must be edited from a public record seen mostly by adults. I implore everybody to look at the January meeting on YouTube, and you can see where it's censored. And just when it was a lot more. But as an institution, we need to adhere to certain standards and respect the laws. And if this material is not appropriate for children, it shouldn't be in the schools. There is other material that's far more important to children that they should learn.
Thank you, sir.
Let them find this other stuff on
Thank
the internet.
you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Martinez, and today I want to discuss the private-public partnerships in the educational system and how they negatively affect school children. People need to realize that almost every piece of legislation is recommended by corporate interests, lobbied by corporate interests, and often authored by corporate writers. Even scientific articles are written in conjunction with advertising professionals at pharmaceutical companies. California AB 659 is an example of corporate greed working with the government. This bill would require students 12 years and older to receive the Gardasil HPV vaccine. The pretext for requiring this vaccine is to prevent cervical, penile, anal, and throat cancers. However, in the clinical trials, there is no evidence that this vaccine prevents cancer. Prior to the vaccine, cervical cancer deaths were 12 per 100,000 people. After the vaccine, the death rate doubled to 24 per 100,000. Recommending this to girls and boys with no evidence of efficacy for boys and negative effectiveness for girls is a travesty. Prior to the COVID injection, Gardasil had the most severe and numerous side effects of any vaccine. The data show there are 2,300 severe adverse events per 100,000. The side effects are debilitating: autoimmune diseases, teen menopause, increased cancers, and death. Healthcare is an industry. As in any business, the top priority is profit, and children are the commodity. Protect your children. Don't line the pockets of pharmaceutical companies, politicians, and government agencies at the expense of your children. Go to these websites that'll inform you and learn more: signvax.org or nvic.org. It is my deepest wish that this board take positive action, question this proposed legislation, think objectively, and protect our children from being pawns for profit.
Corey Layton, Allison Menu, and Liz Hobbs.
Good evening. I pushed my clock forward on Sunday, and I'm starting to think I made a mistake. My name is Corey Layton. I am a resident of 38 years in Oceanside. I am a business owner in Oceanside. I am a South O Seahawk. I'm a Lincoln Panther, and a O-side Pirate for life. I'm also a 12th year teacher in our neighboring district, Carlsbad Unified. And although I do not speak formally for my district, I am here to say that we support you. We support you in the fight against discrimination, against hate, against, you said it, against bigots. All right? And we will continue to support for that fight. All right? And if anyone here is being discriminated against, those around me would let you know. I'd be there to advocate for you, to protect you. It just so happens that right now, it's our LGBTQ community who is continually being discriminated against. So that's why I'm here voicing for them and for anybody else who is being discriminated against. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. I'm frustrated and disgusted that we've been here for 5 years discussing the same thing, and yet we have not resolved anything. You're still not hearing us. You, Telly, have not come and tried to unite this community. Instead, you have divided this community more than it has ever been. You make sure that your side over here can insult us, can call us Hitlers, can call us every name, tell a story that we are bigots, that we're racist, and yet that's not what we're saying. We're saying we want to protect our children. These are our children. They're not your children. Your job is to educate our kids, teach them science, real science. If a person dies, when they do the DNA, are they going to say, oh, I don't know if it's a girl or it's a boy? I have no idea. They are male and female. And by you teaching lies, you are creating a society where people are so confused and they don't know where they're coming from. Your job is to teach them how to read, how to write, how to be respectful. And it's our job as well to come with you and also teach them the same way. I was taught to respect the teachers, to respect them and obey them. But now, the teachers now are trying to divide my family, my values. Yes. Who gave you the right? Did we ever say we can't handle our children, we need your help? Exactly. We're telling you that we're here and we...
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you.
I want to get off my porch.
Thank you.
These are my children.
Thank
not
you.
Yours. Remember that.
Thank you. I guess my kid doesn't matter.
Oh, Max, it is Women's Month. Don't forget. Don't be shushing a woman, dear. As a parent advocate who continues, I wanted to speak on AB 1078, as you can see. It's crucial that we, as parents here, we continue to speak out because we've come here to speak out against masking, vaccine mandates, massive learning loss, critical race theory, and to top it off, explicit pornographic books, as kids as young as 12 are able to check out. And so I was going to continue, but other parents were able to. Is my microphone on? Hello. Oh, okay. To speak on this, but I was here last night, so I'll speak on that quickly. What I saw last night was so heartbreaking on the Reynolds closure and just the coldness, as usual, on this board. You guys didn't even use the best practices guide, that's put out by the California Department of Ed. Instead, our school board gave a 3-day notice to families and did not do their due diligence by providing our Latino community of over 60% here in the district with a Spanish version on last night's agenda. Most importantly, a Spanish version of the engineer report. And despite all the outcry and pleads to at least give a year for families to plan, the board voted to close Reynolds Elementary School. People at home, people here, on both sides, you got to vote these people out. They got to go.
Sean Fredrickson, Susan Custer, and Jan Desrosiers.
Good evening. My name is Sean Fredrickson. I just want to clarify, I don't want to be here tonight. I have better things that I could be doing, like hanging out with my family. You obviously don't, you're not paying attention. I would love to be with my kids, my wife. It is 9:30, and here I am talking to a row of despots. You don't care about what we have to say. You only care what they have to say, because what they're saying is what you have been paid to say as well. It's getting beyond the point of comprehension of what parents can do. We scream, we shout, we yell. You call us bigots. We show up, we send emails. You call us racist. What we're recognizing is this is a game to divide the parents from the unions. The unions have the best interest of the teachers and obviously the activists like these individuals here. We saw the teachers bringing in students from the high school. It's incredible to see 20 students show up here, and 2 of them spoke conservative ideas. 18 of those students parroted what the teacher said. Why do you think that is? Because all of you, 3 are conservative, have the same ideology. It's pathetic. We realize how terrible it must be for you to sleep. We mock you and berate you. We detest your $350,000 salary. We see how fraudulent you are. We call you out as often as we can, and you sit there and vote unanimously because you have no spine. You're all cowards, every one of you, because you take the paycheck just like Judas. What was it like for Judas to hang from the tree? That destiny's not going to feel so great for you. I know what it's like to be a coward. I've done it before. We all have been cowards, but I changed my ways. Will you?
Good evening. First of all, I'm going to read from 2 books, and they have a content warning on the front, both of them. You are about to access material that may contain content of an adult nature. If you are under the age of 18, it is illegal for you to view these materials. So my question is, does the Diary of Anne Frank have that on the cover? If so, we need to consider that book again. I don't believe it does, though. And the Diary of Anne Frank, the book is about a young girl who's in captivity and fears for her life. Now, the first book I'm going to read from is, I'm going to read this one first. And it says, I am learning how to love him by loving myself. Is that what we want to teach our girls? And these books are available to children at least as young as 14, maybe younger. The other one says, you have been taught your legs are a pit for men that need a place to rest, a vacant body empty enough for guests, but no one ever comes and is willing to stay. Is that what you want your daughters? How are we teaching respect? How are we teaching boys to respect the girls with this kind of thing? How are we teaching girls to respect their own bodies? I don't believe Anne Frank had anything of this nature in it. And this is not about hate. This is not about being gay or lesbian. This talks about that it is a place for men to rest their whatever it says. Therefore, it's wrong to keep saying we hate gays. That is totally untrue. We are very inclusive. We like everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Jan?
Oh, Lordy, how do you do it? Jordy Sparks, you deserve more than $350,000 a year, let me tell you. Excuse me. I am so confused.
Please respect those at the podium.
This school board meeting. Are we pushing an agenda of the Bible at the school board meeting? Because if these people are professing to be Christians and talking like this, I'm totally confused. I am a professing Christian. I'm a Methodist. I worship here in Oceanside. And my Lord would never put up with this. My Lord doesn't understand this. When the Pilgrims first came over here, they came because of religious persecution. And that's what is happening right now. These people are trying to push their agenda on you. Every person that spoke about the Bible or is quoting from the Bible, it's like totally unnecessary. I praise God that once a mind is expanded, it can't go back to its original position. And thank you for expanding the minds of our children. Thank you for what you do. I appreciate you. I appreciate the educators here in Oceanside. You guys have a tough job to do when you don't even know who's going to come up here and talk about things that seem to be on the agenda, but they're not. I applaud you, and I applaud those kids that were up here speaking their mind as well. I think that they deserve a round of applause from all of us. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you. At this point in time, thank you. That is all the public comments, and we will now adjourn this meeting.